Hey guys, my name's Jenna, and if you're new here, my husband and I spent the last couple of years making our home in North Carolina our dream space, but we couldn't ignore the nudge to move back to Arizona where we had originally moved from, so we packed up all of our belongings and headed back across the country on a week-long road trip where we made some fun stops along the way. And once we arrived in Arizona, we got settled into our temporary rental, and we had so much fun making that space match our style and giving it a cozier vibe. And while we were there, we kept an eye out for our dream home, which we had been looking for years at this point, and honestly we were starting to lose hope that we would find anything that excited us until we toured this one home. We immediately fell in love with the mountain views and recognized all of the potential that this place had. The only problem was that it needed a lot of work. I'm pretty sure the house hadn't been touched cosmetically since it was built, so we had our work cut out for us, especially since we're working with a limited budget, but the views and the bones are what sold us. So follow along as we renovate and turn this house into our dream home. Okay, so this was the space that we were starting with, and we decided to spend majority of our budget on the kitchen and main living space for phase 1 of the renovation. So the plan was to rip out all of the existing carpet and tile, and I debated whether or not to replace it with more tile or to do a luxury vinyl, and ultimately I decided on the luxury vinyl because I don't have to spend time cleaning grout, and I just like the warmth of a wood look on the floors. We also needed to redo a lot of the kitchen, and the plan for this space was to save money by keeping the existing cabinets since they were still in great condition, and then replace the countertops because the island had a giant crack down the center of it. And we also planned to take the wall oven out and replace that with a push-in oven and a large range hood above it. We also wanted to remove the upper cabinets on both sides of the range hood for a more open and minimal feel. So after paying our initial deposit, the demo crew showed up and got to work. And truly, this was such a surreal day. We had purchased the house less than a week ago, and the next thing you know, it's being ripped apart. And I definitely had a lot of mixed emotions on this day. There was part of me that was thinking how everything felt just like those makeover shows that you see on TV, except I was the one who was getting the makeover, which was just such an unreal feeling. And then on the other hand, I was watching the house that we just spent our entire life savings on get ripped up, and anxiety would definitely start to kick in. But overall, it was a super exciting day, and I definitely had tears in my eyes at certain moments because it was the beginning of our dream home starting to take shape, which for a while I wasn't even sure if it was going to happen. So we were just really grateful to get started. And something else that we wanted to change was the fireplace wall in the living room. This was the initial sketch that I came up with, and I wanted some arched bookshelves and a tapered fireplace to keep the space feeling true to the Spanish style of our home. So my dad helped me come up with this drawing, and my biggest concern was being able to hang the TV above the mantle without that taper detail making it look awkward. Okay, so they started framing out the wall section, and I'm happy with how this looks. Like, I think that that's just like the perfect amount of subtle taper. They haven't done the arches yet, but this also comes out like a good amount to where it's not like taking up a ton of space, but you know, it still is defined. So happy with the progress so far. Okay, so this is my first time seeing the rough frame with the arch detail in there, and I am so obsessed. I love all the beautiful lines on this and how it adds so much pretty architectural interest to this wall. So what we're actually gonna do as far as like the TV is we have this mount that they left, and we're gonna just put it in this box, and then hopefully I can find a TV that's super skinny profile so then it can lay flat against the wall and just look like a piece of artwork. So it kind of blends in with this wall and it can let it shine and it doesn't distract from it too much. And another thing we were able to do to save some money is just keep the original placement of the fireplace, and then we just reframed around it. So that was really helpful when trying to save money because this is a gas fireplace, and relocating that would have been a big headache and it would have been really expensive. So we were able to just kind of work with the placement before and incorporate these really beautiful symmetrical arches around it. So it's one thing to see what you drew up on paper and then just kind of hope it translates. And now that I see it in the space, like, I am so happy with it. I love the proportions, and I feel like the scale is really good. And then my other plan eventually, we're not gonna get to it in this video, but just imagine we're gonna do a giant slider over here with those really beautiful iron grids. So that's gonna add some really pretty contrast and interest to this wall, and it'll just frame the mountain view that we have outside. And that in combination with this beautiful architectural wall is going to look stunning. So I'm so happy with the progress so far and loving how this looks. When we were at Round Top this year, I saw a bunch of mantle beams at this one booth, but unfortunately a lot of them were too short in length for our larger size fireplace. So not only was it difficult to find the right size, but I wanted a good amount of distressing with those beautiful hand-hewn details. So I was lucky enough to come across this Etsy shop, which I will link down below in the description box, and they sold all these beautiful barn beams in all different sizes. And what I loved about this shop was that the seller takes pictures from every angle so that you can really see the piece of wood that you're getting. So I ordered 2 beams and they shipped super quick, and I was so excited to receive the first one in the mail. Okay, so I figured we'd take a peek at this together. I did just partially unwrap it because I want to still keep it in the cardboard when we transport it to the new house. So let's take a peek and see what it looks like. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? I feel like this looks even prettier than the photos. What do you think, Cone? Oh my gosh, you guys. Like, truly, this is stunning. Like, look at all of this beautiful distressing. And these are all kiln dried, they say. So like if there were any bugs in them or anything, they like put them through this kiln, I guess, to kill anything that would have been inside. So that's kind of nice to know. But this is so beautiful. Like, this is just gonna be such a pretty statement piece over the mantle and add so much character. It's really hard to kind of like show you guys with it being in the box, but you'll see it on the mantle soon enough. Okay, so they actually came and removed a lot of the upper cabinets for doing some electrical work. So Mike and I were able to roughly tape out what we were thinking onto the wall. And this painter's tape has been one of the best hacks just for seeing the scale of everything and kind of figuring out the measurements before we go back to our contractor and we tell them how big we want things or where we want things on the wall. Because it's nice to be like, oh, maybe this shelf should be a little bit higher or this should be a little bit wider. So we've already made those adjustments, and this is kind of roughly what we were thinking. This is going to be our range hood, and then these are going to be open shelving, and then this is the rough size of our stove. We ordered a 36-inch stove, and so I originally was thinking to make our range hood the same size as the stove because that's what a lot of the inspiration pictures that I looked at had scale-wise, you know, like the range hood was the same exact size as the oven, but we ended up needing it to be a little bit wider just because this wall is so large. We needed it to be a little bit more of like an anchoring piece. We tried doing it this 36 inches and it was just like a little bit too puny, especially with this taper detail that we have. So this is right at 42 inches, which is perfect. And then we're gonna have this trim piece that's made out of an old barn beam. So that's what like the dark blue is. And then we'll have a pair of 2 open shelves just because I want this wall to feel really open and be the focal point. So it'll be nice to be able to display some of my dishes and, you know, antiques and stuff like that on there. So I'm really happy with how this looks. We're gonna like record all these measurements and then we'll go back to our contractor and then hopefully they can start framing out the range hood. Okay, so we have drywall. It looks so good. I'm really excited. They said they're gonna do like a 20% skip trowel kind of Santa Fe texture on it. So I think that'll look really pretty. So it's looking really good. This is totally how I envisioned it. I love the arches. And it's just like really exciting to see it all starting to come together. Also, I love how here in Phoenix, they do like this rounded beaded edge. So you get that kind of like adobe look to the walls where they have that curve to the edges, which is really nice. Okay, so they added all of this trim work to the island and honestly, it looks beautiful, but there was a little bit of a miscommunication between our contractor and the guy who does the cabinets. And we really are looking for this space to be a little bit more modern. I'll show some pictures here of just kind of like the vibe we're going for. I just really want it to feel a little bit more Spanish modern versus like English traditional. And I feel like all of this trim work is, you know, very traditional and just really isn't what I'm looking for in terms of style. It's a great way to hide this trash rollout, which we had added. This was a last minute add. Honestly, I was like, oh,
there's so much wasted space here in the middle, and we don't have a trash rollout in this kitchen. So I like last minute texted the cabinet guy and I was like, can you put a trash rollout in? And I had the picture of it on this side because I know that's a little counterintuitive. You typically have it right by the sink, which makes sense. So that's why he put it here. But I did ask for it over here just because this is like such a weird reason why, but I just wanted to make use of the view out here. So I want to be doing most of my prepping here because the refrigerator's here, and I just figured that would kind of be where I hang out most. And like I'll be over here doing a lot of the prep because the oven will be here and the microwave will be here. And I don't really think going all the way over there makes sense. So basically what's going to be happening now is he's going to add another trash rollout, which is honestly probably what we should have done anyways, is to do one on both sides, because otherwise this is just wasted space. And you know, these things do fill up fast, so it'll be nice to have two. And if we don't end up using two, we can use the side that we end up using most often and then put something like Kona's dog food in here or use it to store other things. So that's what's going to happen. So they're going to remove all of this trim work, which makes me sad because he did such a good job on it and it's beautiful, just like not what we're going for. So he's going to remove all of this trim work and we're going to make this look very flush, because my whole vision was to do a like faux waterfall look. I wanted the countertop to be flush with this side and then, you know, just kind of look like it's a faux waterfall and give it more of a modern feel. So yeah, I feel bummed for the cabinet guy because he did all this beautiful work, and that's something that I'm learning through this process because it's the first time that we've ever worked with a contractor or, you know, done anything custom in a space, and communication is so big. And I think that's like been the biggest challenge, is things just happen so fast and I don't know when they're happening. So you really got to communicate clearly what you want and have like a drawing and a vision from the start, and not just like figure it out as you go with the professionals. So that's kind of what we're doing, just because things happen so quickly. But it's all a learning process and it'll get done the way we want. But it's looking good so far, and I'm hopeful for how it's going to end up.
They also installed our new sink, which I was really excited about. We had a big farmhouse sink in our last house, and I really missed it when we were living in our rental. So this one was actually not even too expensive, and it looks really beautiful. And another thing that we needed to do was pick out our countertops. And Taj Mahal Quartzite was always the front runner, and when I saw this leathered Taj Mahal slab, I was obsessed. Quartzite is actually a natural stone, and it's considered to be one of the most durable natural stones, and it's very similar to granite in that way. So I loved that it would stand the test of time, and I really liked that the leathered finish resembled marble to kind of look and feel earthy, which will help to give our kitchen more of that organic feel. So the guys came and installed it, and we did end up needing 2.5 slabs, which was on the pricier side, but our contractor did work with us and he only charged us for a half of the slab, and the fabricator did a really great job. And because this stone was such a statement, I decided to capitalize on that by doing a thick 2.5-inch edge as opposed to the standard 1.25 inch. And I love all of the beautiful detail that this natural stone has.
Okay, so they just got done installing the countertops, and oh my goodness, I made a last minute decision to get them be mitered to 2.5, which I'm really glad. I think that this is such a beautiful stone that it just needs to make a statement with that thick edge. So yeah, it's stunning. I don't want to touch it because they just put a sealer on it, but it is so beautiful.
So because this is a natural stone, different slabs will vary in color. So some people will look for a more warmer beigey Taj Mahal. Some want it more neutral. And honestly, I thought this slab was perfect because it had that marble look, which I love. And I also love that they were able to pull off only needing to do one seam. They were actually able to cut this entire corner section over here with no seam, which was great. And same thing with our island. It was just barely big enough. The slabs were really large for Taj Mahal, so we were able to do our entire island with one slab. But that's about it for this video, you guys. Be sure that you're subscribed and that your notifications are turned on so you don't miss part 2 of our renovations. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.